Alright y'all, so I've been journaling every single week for 6 months and I want to share my experience and talk a little bit about, did I like it? Would I recommend it to other people? And this is all because I've been in the self-development space for quite a while now, and journaling is a habit that literally almost every single influencer preaches about. And I just wanted to figure it out for myself. I wanted to give it an actual shot and see would it be as helpful to me as it has been for many other people online. So without further ado, let's go through how this experiment started. So where did I come up with the idea and the specific way I wanted to do it, how I did it, so how I actually journaled, challenges I faced, benefits I experienced, and then will I continue doing this and would I recommend it, most importantly, for you. So let's get into how this all started. Alright, so like I mentioned, I've been in the self-development space for quite a while now, and I also mentioned that journaling is a habit that everyone preaches about. And for the longest time, I tried to journal every single day. As a rookie in the improvement space, as soon as I heard journaling, I journal every single day. This is my experience. These are all the benefits I faced and everything. I was just so entranced by that, and I got sucked into the idea that I need to journal in order to grow. And that's why literally one day I got up and I was like, okay, we're gonna journal every single day. And so that's literally what I tried to do, except I had an extremely hard time to do that. And I can't imagine why, just getting up and saying, okay, we're gonna journal every single day now. I can't imagine why that failed. But alas, after a few days, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't put up with that anymore. I just didn't like the experience, so I let it go. But then of course, my inner self was like, no, we don't quit. We're gonna push through. So then I would pick up journaling again for a few days, but then I would let it go again because I just didn't enjoy the experience. I wasn't getting anything out of it. And that's mostly because I felt like I had to say things, but I didn't have anything to say. Every single day, I didn't have that much to say, and I felt like I had to fill up pages. And so that entire experience was more exhausting than fruitful for me, and that's why I had such a hard time getting into this whole journaling thing. However, back in May, I was on TikTok, of course, and I came across this really awesome TikTok of this influential man whose name I do not remember, but he was talking about how he reflects every single week on what he's accomplished and his thoughts for the week, and that's allowed him to grow way faster because while others reflect and make goals every single year, he does that exact same thing every single week. And so I was like, that's a pretty neat way of thinking about it, and I was pretty interested in the idea of these weekly reflections and journaling weekly, because reflections are basically journaling. And so I was like, I like that idea and I'm gonna try that out, because obviously trying to journal every single day did not work. And when I mean it did not work, that means I would not journal for months, journal once, and then not journal for months again. So I was like, you know what? Let's give this a shot. So that's where the whole idea came out, that hey, let's try journaling every single week, let's have some sort of reflection template, and let's see how it goes. Alright, so here's what I did. So the very first thing that I did is I researched what questions I wanted to ask myself every single week. So I went through, I did a bunch of Googling in order to come up with in order to understand what different types of questions other people ask themselves, and what I would potentially want to ask myself. So I narrowed it down to 5 main questions that I wanted to ask myself. So here are the 5 questions that I locked down that I wanted to ask myself every single day. The first one is, how am I feeling? And this is split up into 3 categories: mind, body, soul. And so I would rate myself out of 5 for each category. And the second question I asked myself is, what went well? And so what went well in the week, essentially. Third question I asked myself is, obviously, what didn't go well in the week. The fourth question is, what did I learn? And the fifth question is, what would make the next week great? So that's kind of my template that I've been following every single week since May for these 6 months, those are the questions that I've been asking myself every single week as I do this weekly journaling experiment. Now, note that for the 5th question, the last question, what would make the next week great? I try to keep that to 1 or 2 bullet points because it's just like you want to keep things manageable so you can actually achieve things and so you don't disappoint yourself and actually build self-esteem. That's my reasoning for keeping my answer to that question short. And also note that I do this in bullet points. Like, they can be long bullet points and they can be in full sentences, but I do a numbered list just so it doesn't feel like I'm writing a bunch of paragraphs and I get into that whole scenario where I felt like I had to write a bunch of things and fill up pages. So I do like a numbered list, bullet points in some cases, and that's how I answer those questions. Now, as for actually doing the act, like actually journaling, I would sit down for about 30 minutes every Sunday night and put on my headphones, put some journaling music on, and yes, I would actually search YouTube for journaling music, and I would put on whatever came up. Anyways, I would put my headphones on, you know, get into the mood, so to say, and then I would actually journal by hand. So I've been journaling in this plain old diary for this experiment, and this is what I've been journaling in for when I even tried to journal every single day. So this is kind of what I've been using. I've been putting pen to paper, and the reason why I do that is because there's something really nostalgic about writing physically. Like, you really have to think about your words, and I wanted that experience for this experiment because it's so easy to type and then just erase, but pen to paper, it's more thoughtful, it's more nostalgic, it's more, I don't know, it made the experience better for me. So yeah, every Sunday I would sit with the lights low, so I would just have a lamp on and I would have my headphones on and I would write down those 5 questions and go through each question and just answer things in bullet points and go, you know, how do I feel? What did I learn? So let's get into the benefits I experienced from this experiment. So there are 4 main benefits that I experienced, and the very first one is the biggest one, and that is exactly what the man said in the TikTok that I watched that inspired this experiment and this whole idea of weekly reflections. And that benefit is that I felt much more active in my life. And not only did I feel more active in my life, I was more active in my life. And what that means is that you're consciously checking in with yourself every single week to see the progress that you've made, you know, certain behaviors or actions that you've done that you're really proud of, or that, you know, you felt were a mistake and that you don't want to repeat in the future. So it's a great way to just reiterate what has happened, recall your learnings, think about what you want to happen in the next week, and it's a great way to really accelerate your growth. He said that, and I really feel like doing this weekly journaling thing helped me be more in charge of my life and directing what happens in the week and directing myself towards my goals. I could be proactive about what I did want to happen, and I could also be proactive about what I didn't want to happen in my life. And so that consciousness was the biggest benefit that I experienced, like this consciousness of my life. Like, I'm actively designing what goes on. That consciousness, amazing. Now, the second benefit that I experienced was that I became really conscious about the content that I'm consuming. And I mean this in a way that although my social media is already geared towards self-development, like I think about it as productive procrastination or productive social media. Like, I'm still learning on social media. That's all I do on social media. I learn about the spaces that I'm interested in. I do think that too much of anything can be bad, and that's what I was slowly starting to feel about my involvement on social media, because there was just so much that I was learning that I felt like it was going in one ear and out the other, because there was just so much information being consumed that I wasn't actually digesting it and actually implementing it in my own life. And so by asking myself every single week, you know, what did you learn? What did I learn? I was actively recalling what I had learned that week and actually forcing myself to remember, okay, what are the good things that we learned this week? What do we want to keep in our life? What do we want to note down permanently? And recall that so we can actually digest it. So the third benefit that I experienced is that I was thinking about my goals more actively. I briefly touched on this in the first benefit, but I'm gonna actually expand on this now, and that is because I was thinking about my goals every single week, I was actually able to pivot every single week depending on what happened. You know, is this goal still serving me? Do I still want to pursue this goal? Am I still interested in this? You know, this didn't go well. How do I pivot to do something else? So because I was considering my goals every single week, I was more, my path towards them was accelerated versus me thinking about them every single month or every single year, as every other person usually does. And so thinking about my goals every single week allowed me to be more active in actually pursuing them and actually obtaining them faster. I really noticed this. I won't go into any specific details, but I did notice that I was working towards my goals faster than I was when I wasn't doing this experiment. And so the fourth benefit that I experienced is something that is related to my personal development journey, and that is I gave myself the space to be vulnerable. And I really found out how beautiful that process is. To be human, to be honest with yourself, to understand your triggers, understand what actions you loved and what actions you don't want to repeat in the future, to reflect on others' words, on your words, and be honest with how they make you feel and give yourself the space to absorb those feelings and feel your feelings. That's something that I haven't practiced a lot. And so doing this while journaling, like asking myself these questions, basically forced myself to be vulnerable. Asking myself these questions made me be vulnerable and experience this entire process, which at the end, even though it makes me nervous, I found it to be really beautiful and something that I want to learn to be better at. So that was a huge benefit I experienced as well. Alright, as for challenges I faced, there is really only one challenge I faced, and it's related to the fourth benefit that I just mentioned, and that is giving myself the space to be vulnerable and honest with myself was actually really, really difficult. At first, it was really hard for me to take this experiment seriously. And I don't mean that I was laughing at the experiment, but what I mean is asking myself these questions seriously and actually giving myself the time to reflect on my week and think, okay, let's be honest. What did I like? What did I not like? What do I want the next week to hold for me? Like actually reflecting on my experiences and, you know, what they say in the therapy side of TikTok is, you know, living your truth, speaking your truth. It's not easy, and it was really, really difficult in the beginning to give myself the space mentally and physically, you know, actually setting aside time to do that. It was really difficult. I had to get real with myself, and that, from my experience, is difficult for any human being. And so, you know, pushing myself out of my comfort zone and asking myself of this, it was a huge challenge, but really worth it. Like I mentioned in the benefits section, I really enjoyed, you know, asking myself to be vulnerable, even if it was just with myself, because even when it's with yourself, like I said, being real with yourself, not easy for everyone. So let's get into my verdict. So what's Ruha's verdict? Will I continue doing this? Will I embed this permanently into my routines? And do I recommend this for someone else? So here is my verdict. And that is a resounding yes, 100%. I'm totally integrating this into my routines and permanently into my life. I found a lot of value from this weekly reflection idea, this weekly journaling idea, because while journaling every single day really frustrated me, you know, concisely reflecting on my week and giving myself a template, some broad questions to open up, you know, my Pandora's box of thoughts, really helpful. And I've found a lot of value out of this exercise. And so yes, maybe I'll start preaching about journaling as well. But even though I'm definitely going to be including this in my life, my answer is a little bit different for, you know, when I think about would I recommend this for someone else. And why I say it's a little bit different is because even from my own journaling experience where I couldn't journal every single day and that was just fruitless for me, I like to think about the fact that the point is not to journal. The point is to reap the benefits experienced from journaling. And that is why so many people preach about journaling. It's because they've experienced those benefits. I made this mistake, and I really hope other people don't make this mistake, and that is, don't do the habit for the sake of doing the habit. Do it because of how it will help you. As a rookie in the improvement space, I thought I had to journal to grow. That's not true. Understand what works for you and adapt it to your lifestyle. Adapt whatever habits you need to in order to make them work for you. So for example, daily journaling didn't help me. That was a terrible experience. But weekly journaling is something that I really enjoyed. And so, you know, play around with things. I will say that. I will definitely recommend that you at the very least experiment with journaling, because it has been helpful for a bunch of people, including myself now. So do experiment with it, but don't think you have to journal. That's not the point. The point is not to journal, okay? You gotta think bigger picture. All right, so that is my experience journaling every single week for 6 months. I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. I hope you're able to understand how you may be able to incorporate this into your life. And with that, you all know what I'm gonna say. Until next time.